done, it's the only way that it can be done. You should be able to compose the desktop just in time, because you are aware of the context just in time. Also, the user workspace that Jeff was talking about, it is something that only exists during the use of that workspace. As soon as you log off, the workspace is gone, because the next time you use the workspace, you are in a different context and the workspace will be different. So, what we think is important inside a desktop is not just a profile, which contains personal settings, but it is about applications, so the appropriate access to these applications, or the printers. So if I'm in a workspace at home, I do need a different printer than the workspace I'm using in the office. So printers is also very important. Also, the data. So if I have client-server applications, then I do need to configure my client application to go to the appropriate data resource, database whatsoever. So all these items will compose the workspace for the end user to be productive in. How to compose this workspace? You can only do that based on the context. Jeff was already talking about the context is not just identity. So if I am at home, then I'm suddenly an unsafe Bob. As soon as I go to the office, and I'm on my local office network, then I become a safe Bob. So as you can see, the location is part of my context. It changes the way I can use my workspace. Time of day. In healthcare, for example, doctors, they work in the morning and in the afternoon they work in a different practice. So they need different security policies based on the time of day they're using that workspace. Also an important piece of the context of the user. Also the type of device. A lot of people are working with laptops, so on a laptop, for example, I can still burn DVDs. But what if I'm accessing my workspace on an iPad? Then I don't want to provide the CD burning application, it won't work. So you want to prevent people from calling the help desk where to insert the CD, for example. So the type of device always is part of your context, and it determines what the capabilities are within the context. Once you are aware of the context, you can now also apply security based on the same context. So the example that I gave you, that at home I'm an unsafe Bob, so at home I cannot access source code, for example. As soon as I go into the office in my secure network, different location, different context, then suddenly I do have access to a Visual Studio environment and access to my source code. So the security needs the context to be context aware and to restrict the workspace based on policies that count for that particular context. If you combine these three together, you can dynamically compose this workspace on top of any Windows platform. For example, VMware View. You will have your standardized image of VMware View, but based on the context, we will create a personal experience. We will provide the appropriate application data printers and settings for the user based on that virtual machine. So, although it's a single image, everybody will have a personal experience. And that's what I'm going to show you right now.
So as Bob is jumping into the demo here, I just want to kind of recap what he's saying. We are enabling you to truly deliver stateless VDI with personalized context-aware settings and application experiences. Stateless or cool. The industry today is struggling to shift from this personal VM, this personal VDI model, to a cool or stateless VDI model. This is a huge enabler to that by creating these dynamic workspaces. We're going to jump in and show you how one of those looks right now. Go
into this environment. So this is my workspace. As you can see, all my applications that I need for my job role are available, including the Outlook. And as you can see, there are no pop-ups with all kind of difficult questions. It just works. If I start a new email message, it will just create a new email message. My signature of the account that I just created with Runbook Automation is all ready and set to go. But what makes this virtual desktop truly personal is the ability to involve local applications inside my remote desktop. A lot of you will have seen the challenge of those few applications that you do not want to install inside your remote managed desktop, but you do want to provide maybe your users the possibility to use their iTunes or iTunes to connect to iPods or iPhones. So ITaaS Software has a unique technology which is called Virtual Desktop Extender that allows you to use local applications from your host endpoint inside your remote desktop. So, for example, there's a very nice movie that I will quickly show you, but this movie cannot be put on my administrator's network. He doesn't allow me to do it. So he just gave me access to run this application from within my VMware View remote session. So let's play the movie.
So this is an application sitting on this machine down here locally, running up inside the virtual machine, accessing data
last night, no. So, a truly virtual workspace, a personal virtual workspace, is a workspace that you can manage centrally, that is still context aware and dynamically composes what the end user needs. And with the VDX technology included, you can also let the user use local applications. In a bring your own PC concept, that's ideal. You want to have local applications that they install that you don't want to manage, but you just want to provide access to these local applications. And that's what ITaaS Software can provide as well. So, self-service, the last step in a truly dynamic infrastructure. I want to provide my end users some capabilities of doing these IT tasks themselves. So I forgot to enter Jeff's phone number, for example, in the workspace. Why do I need to bother my help desk, 5 minutes phone call, and let them do a manual task to add the phone number of Jeff inside his signature? He can do it himself. So for service orchestration, it's very important to give the appropriate services to the appropriate users. Only then they will be productive for your organization. The most important piece of service orchestration or self-service capabilities is to qualify them for the service. If you're not qualified, don't provide this service. If you look to service catalogs like DES or from Citrix, they will provide one huge service catalog for everybody. No, you need a personalized service catalog. And by the way, 80% of that service catalog can be predicted and therefore automatically be delivered. So we think that being part of a category in your organization, taking into account that there might be restrictions or dependencies for that IT service, you will be able to qualify people for IT services. Only then you can deliver a personalized service catalog. Once you know if they qualify, you can determine how to deliver or return these services. And you need to configure a few actions. Those actions can be authorizations, for example. So if I get access to my human resource database, my manager needs to approve that I will get access to the database. So if you have a way to let your administrator authorize the access and the end user can get or request the service himself, the IT help desk can focus on other more important stuff. What I've shown you in the previous demo is that I created the runbook to create Jeff's account. This runbook was encapsulated into a very easy to kick off runbook. I only needed to enter those parameters. The next step that we will do is we will replace the help desk with the service portal. The service portal is called the orchestration client. So now Jeff can use the service portal himself to start the request for a phone number change, and based on that it will be dynamically delivered to his workspace without having to call the help desk. So that's what Jeff will now show. I deliberately asked Jeff to do this demonstration because it's important that end users can do these kind of activities.
Outlook earlier, my signature file did not have my phone number in it. So I'm going to show you a quick example of how you can actually provide a service catalog to a user to have them do that service request themselves. So down here I've got this ability, there it is, to look for my services. I've got a little services browsing button here. I can just do a quick search. And I'll just try and type here on this angle. Mouse is playing with me. It shows immediately I've got this chance to change my phone number. So I'm going to request this service. This is now sending off a request. It's a service being requested back into IT. It's an approved service. This is going to come back with a pending action from me. So you can now see I've got a new service request, and it's asking me to please provide some information. So we're pushing this access back to the user. So I'll just put in some numbers here. And make it a complete phone number. And we'll hit OK. Submitted the data, that's now being put back in as an approved request, and that's now going to come back to me and show that a completed action has been summarized and delivered for me automatically. So in just 1 second, I'll launch Outlook and show you how that has been changed, and I'll know how that added to my signature file within Outlook.
And just to emphasize, there's no helpless employee inside the laptop. Jeff is doing everything himself. A runbook is being initiated in the back end, and you will see that inside the workspace everything will be changed based on the activity that Jeff initiated. And as you can see, the phone number has been changed also in the signature. That is what we call a truly dynamic personal workspace, based on self-servicing, based on a dynamic composition of the workspace, looking at the context instead of